Hello, welcome back. This is good afternoon, good evening, good morning for some of you over in California, Pacific time zone, joining us from 18 different countries. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. I'm super excited about this session. I was just talking to Dan about it, Dan from Hyer. It's H&H, Hypertrack and Hyer together. So I'm really excited. Hyer is a company that I have been fortunate to track for a long time. They are scrappy, they are growing really fast. They provide gig workers for retail, for hospitality, and a host of other industries. Without further ado, let me introduce man of the hour, Dan DelGiudice, and his colleague, Nick, from the Hyer team. Over to you, Dan.
Very good.
And Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you all. My name is Dan DelGiudice. As Gaurav mentioned, I lead our partnerships here for Hyer. We are an on-demand labor solution, powered by the gig economy, providing real-time labor to the retail, hospitality, warehouse industries. And what we'll do today is myself and Nick, my colleague, who leads our partnership onboarding here, we'll walk you through a little bit about the gig economy, kind of what's happening trend-wise with labor. And then we'll also do a quick demo of the Hyer app. So without further ado, I'll share my screen here. And at Hyer, we like to say we're reinventing how work gets done. But before we talk about what we're doing here at Hyer in particular, let's kind of take a quick step back and understand kind of what's happening in the labor environment. So I think, as it relates to labor, I think there's two big trends taking place as we see it here at Hyer, right? So on the one hand, you've got people are still looking for people, right? Labor is still a major gap across whether you go to a restaurant or any kind of a retail or grocery store, at the warehouse level, at hotels, right? There's still help wanted signs everywhere. It's still a major gap. We're probably on, 50, 60 calls a week where we are talking to executives. This is still the number one concern for executives, right? From the C-suite all the way down to the people actually making it happen on the front line. So still a major gap. I think, with COVID, a lot of people were displaced that maybe didn't want to be, whether it's a restaurant worker or someone as a, general stocker in a supermarket, et cetera. And so a lot of those people left the workforce and just didn't necessarily come back full time, right? So there's still a major gap there. Now, on the other side, kind of the left side of the screen here, you've got this just burgeoning gig economy, right? These are people who, whether you're an Uber driver, right? Maybe you're a shopper for Shipt or Instacart, or you're working at a company like Hyer. These people are saying, hey, we want to work, like we're here. In fact, about 60 million people have actually done gig work or freelance in this country, which is a lot. It's almost 1 out of every 3 adults, right? So people just have changed kind of the way they want to work, right? It's this flexibility, this on-demand approach. And so, technology has really enabled people to finally work how they want to work. So for many individuals, that could be, supplementing a 9-to-5 job with a Saturday night shift at a gig with a gig app, or maybe you've just moved into kind of gig full time with a number of gig apps. So these two trends are kind of converging. And then, with a company like ours, our job is to say, hey, gig economy, let's connect you into the retail, restaurant, hotel space where people actually need you. So I think that's a good foundation as to what's really happening right now in the space. The other thing with gig, you think about kind of 3 big pillars, right? So I already talked about filling labor gaps. Literally, where organizations don't have people, gig can solve that, right? It's typically no commitment. It's as needed, right? It's on demand. So just literally filling gaps. There's millions of people who want to work. You just have to get connected to them. Number 2 here, the concept of scaling your workforce in real time based on the ebbs and flows of your business. So think about a supermarket, or think about maybe a party retail Halloween store right now with the seasonality, right? You need extra hands on deck based on the seasonal projects and ebbs and flows, but maybe you don't need full-time people. So it's a great way to scale the workforce up and down. And again, with technology, it's as soon as same day. So imagine a world where you could actually do that without planning in advance and saying, oh my gosh, I need 12 people here tomorrow, 4 people here today, et cetera. So that's kind of the vision here. And then this concept, you think about recruiting, right? So in many ways, this is HR tech, if you will. The concept of a worker, right? Maybe testing an employer out before they commit to a full-time job, and then the employer getting to work with someone before they commit to hiring them. So this try before you buy concept is really novel. And it's really a part of the future of work, how we see it. And so this is kind of the way we think about workforce optimization and the vision at Hyer, but broadly, this is how gig works. I think if you look at some of the stats on the bottom of this page here, churn is still incredibly high. Turnover is high. So we talk to people all the time. A lot of the work we do is in the grocery space, and it seems like it's a revolving door, right? So gig can help solve that, where every time someone comes in, right, as full-time, it seems like someone is leaving right behind them, right? This revolving door concept. And it gets really expensive too, right? When people are leaving, even if they've come back to work and now they're leaving to go down the street, maybe to make $1 more, literally, that's what we're hearing. You're now paying maybe this $5,300 per employee, maybe twice a year per role, right? If everyone is coming in and leaving and the churn is high. So things are getting very expensive, recruitment costs, onboarding costs, and again, multiple times a year. But then there's a solution like ours, right? And there's others as well, where someone like Hyer, it's free to use the app. So it's kind of a great tool to have in the toolkit. There's no commitment or anything like that. And this concept of hiring people, and maybe as a provisional, right, you can test someone out before hiring, is really novel and quite unique. So a little bit about us and how we work. So we're a two-sided marketplace. On one side, we've got 367,000 gig workers. These are 1099 contractors. And on the other side of the marketplace, if you will, we've got about 170 plus partners. Again, primarily grocers, restaurants, hotels, distribution centers. They're working over 10,000 locations, and these workers are all background checked and insured. You can see their resume and everything like that. Like I said, there's no commitment. The type of jobs that we really specialize in are kind of that frontline labor. So maybe in a retail space, it's merchandising or curbside picking. At a restaurant, it could be food prep, dishwashing, hotel attendants in hotels, et cetera. So we have about probably 300 different types of tasks or jobs that we've done on our app. And it's really simple to use. It's kind of like Uber, but for labor. And probably the best of all, who are these gig workers? These are people just like us, right? They've either left the 9-to-5 rat race fully to work at a number of gig companies, or in some instances, it's just supplemental income. And, a couple of call outs here, you look at someone like Kathy, right? You can get someone like Kathy who's an experienced person who retired, but has come back to the workforce. So imagine that, right? You get to choose who you want. Or someone like, Dominique on the far right. This is great for her because she gets to finish her, bachelor's degree while she's making some extra income when it makes sense for her. And that could ebb and flow based on our schedule. So it's really about flexibility. And, our taskers love it, right? We talk about fill rates a lot in this space. The fill rates with us are about 90% plus, which means if you post 10 jobs, over 9 will get filled. It's because these people want to be here, right? They've gone out of their way to download the app and apply to your job because they actually want to be here to make money. It's super simple. So like I mentioned, Nick, my colleague, will walk us through a little bit of a demo on how this all works, but just kind of the vision on how this actually works. So once you're a tasker in gig apps like Hyer, for example, you log in and you can actually see different job opportunities, different gigs, if you will. You're going to see when it is, how much you're going to get paid. You work exactly when you want, right? The second screenshot there. You're not kind of dictated to what is good for someone else. You choose tasks when it's good for you. And then think about this, you get paid right away. So you talk about the stickiness of these workers, these gig workers. I think this is a trend that'll be table stakes in the next few years for just employees across the board. But, with Hyer, we pay the taskers right away. So as soon as they're done with that task, we pay them and our partners just pay us later. And so they love that, literally decide to wake the same day and access to their funds same day. And they get to build a resume and build connections as well. Now, for the business, and Nick will walk us through a little bit more detail here, it's also very simple. So we work with businesses all the time, and we'll get you set up in advance with the different gigs or task types that you have. You're in full control of your pay, right? Our model is very simple. We apply a transactional fee on top of the rate that you set, and that is it. There's no minimums, there's no subscriptions, nothing like that. And then you're in full control. I think that's the big I'd say that the consistency here is that you're in full control of how much you're paying, when you're using it, and who is coming in, right? So I said earlier, we're like Uber for labor, but it's much better than that because you're actually choosing who you want, right? You may choose Dre in this example based on his experience, and you also get to do ratings and reviews. So again, very seamless approach, and we kind of do all the work with you up front so that your managers, et cetera, have access when they need it. And that's kind of the high level, right? You'll see we've serviced over 10,000 locations across the country, from retailers to hotels to restaurants. And we're founded in about, 2018, so about 5 years ago, and have scaled pretty quickly. And yeah, we're growing every day, like Gaurav mentioned. So with that, I will pause on the presentation component, and I'll pass it over to Nick, who can walk us through a little bit more.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And before I start, I want to thank Hypertrack for putting this together. And thank you, everybody, for jumping on. So for today's demo, what I want to walk us through is the Hyer app really broken down in two parts. One of which, what it looks like to post a task from a business point of view. And then secondly, on the task management side, what it looks like to select an applicant or pay them out. Dan had touched upon, we are a mobile application, but we also have a desktop portal. So if you prefer to work off your computer, that's also something where all of the same functionality exists. Really to get started on posting, what I'm going to do is hit this big post task button at the bottom. We're going to click on our business, and then we're going to select from a range of task types that are already preset for us. In this case, I'm going to assume I'm a retailer and I'm posting for a stocking associate to come in tomorrow. So we'll click on that and hit let's get started. So for step one, it's going to ask for our task location. Here, you're going to see your pre-populated location addresses. It's as easy as selecting on the one that you want to post for. But what's cool is you can also, based on your organizational structure, assign a single location manager to only one store, or we could actually assign multiple locations to a market or regional manager. So we can totally match what you guys currently have in place. The second step is going to be date and time. So like I mentioned, we're posting for this tomorrow. I'm going to select on the 6th. And then we want this person to start at 9:30 a.m. Best tip for success, and really our bread and butter, is going to be same day, next day. That could be anywhere from 4 hours in advance to 24 hours in advance. That being said, it's no extra cost to post a task out there to start in an hour. It just makes it a little bit more difficult for us to fill it. The third step is going to be the cost calculator. On the top left is a preset hourly rate. What's cool is you have full control of what you're paying the worker. And on the top right, you'll see your rate with Hyer's markup. Both of those will be pre-filled. The only thing left is to set the duration. So if we wanted somebody to come in for, let's say, 8 hours, we'd go ahead and scale this up to 8. You'll then see a total cost pop up, which is what you pay as a business, not what the worker actually sees. Our fourth step is going to be a pre-populated description. And like a job description, before somebody applies or after they're scheduled, they can see what's going to be required of them, dress code, check-in, check-out instructions, etc. Also cool is we could add in videos or PDFs here. So for anybody who's looking for a position that you want somebody to come in with a little bit more knowledge than off the street, we can make sure that they review those details. Lastly, we can also filter down taskers by experience or certifications. So as you think about a restaurant, maybe you want a bartender. We want to make sure that you're going to get a licensed bartender in the state, and that's something we can filter down to. Our next screen is going to ask us, do we want to post this task publicly and choose taskers? This is essentially public versus private functionality. When you post a task publicly, it'll open up to anybody nearby. From there, they can apply, and then you select the person you want to work from a list of applicants. Secondly, the private function is something that we see businesses use over time. Typically, maybe they have 3 to 5 people that they really like and would like to have back. They could actually send this out privately to only those folks, and the difference is once you send it out, the first person to accept is the one that's scheduled. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and post it publicly. It's going to tell us here that we posted your task, and underneath it asks, do you want to post more identical tasks? So really that functionality is for duplicating your post. One shift is good for one person. So if you needed more than one person in tomorrow, let's say a total of 3, you could scale this up twice. Or if you had a need on more of a recurring basis, you could actually hit the multiple days and post out to future dates. So you don't need to go back and post over and over again. Once we hit go to your tasks, we'll see it brings us straight to the task tab with our new open position. And that's really how easy it is to post. On the management side, within the task tab, let's go ahead and dive in what it looks like to view and select an applicant. So we see here we have an open task with 4 applicants. And once we click on that icon, we get to see who applied. At face value within the applicant list, you get to see a tasker's full name, their profile photo, their 5-star rating, how many tasks they've completed, and their distance and proximity to the location you're posting for. On the right side, you may see different badges or icons. We call them badges, and they could be given to somebody in one of 2 ways. They could possess a relevant experience or certification that we've manually approved on the Hyer side, called a bartender's license, a food safety certification, or a forklift certification. Or you could see a business logo, meaning they're proficient, trained, or experienced at that business. If you wanted to read a little more about somebody, you can click on their name. It'll open up their profile in greater detail. Here you can see the type of skills they've accumulated while working on the app, a little bit more about them within their biography, reviews left by other businesses, and their work experience outside of the app. But assuming Nick was the one you wanted in for the day, you'd hit confirm this tasker at the bottom. And once we hit confirm one more time, we're going to see here that that for applicant icon goes away and that tasker appears as scheduled. Now, directing your eyes to the middle to the top of the screen, I'm going to jump over to the active folder, and a task will move to the active folder an hour before its scheduled start time. Here, you're going to start to receive status updates, so you're going to be alerted when a tasker is on the way or in progress. During that time, you also have the ability to track them via GPS, similar to an Uber driver. We also have geofencing, so a tasker can't actually mark complete or in progress unless they're located within 1,000 feet of the location you're posting for. Once a tasker does come in and complete the work for you, on the business side, you'll see this review and verify payment button pop up. And once we click that, you'll see that you have full control of the payment before this tasker gets paid out. So for example, if somebody came in and worked 2 additional hours under your approval, you could scale this up to 8. You would then see the pay scale. Same could be done if you let somebody go early. Outside of that, lastly, what I wanted to walk us through, since we have some time, is what it looks like to leave a review. And bear with me for just 1 second. I should have deleted some tasks, so this takes a second to load. But once you have somebody come in and complete work, you can rate them on 4 standards: quality, courtesy, dress code, and punctuality for a total 5-star score. You can mark a tasker as preferred. This is almost like a favorite filter. So if somebody came in, did a great job, and you plan to utilize again, you'd mark them as preferred. And then anytime you're actually posting a private task, this is a filter you can use. And then there's going to be 2 types of text feedback, one of which is for the tasker, something they can see and put on their profile. Most of the time that's positive. The second is something called internal notes. And I'll give you a good use case. If you have multiple managers from your business on the app, one of them has a bad experience, they leave an internal note. Anytime that tasker applies for any manager's posting, you'd be able to see that note. The tasker cannot. So it's purely for internal communication. But that is basically it for, I would say, the app demo. So I will turn it back over to Dan or anyone else on the HyperTrack side for a Q&A if any questions came through.
Outstanding. Thanks a lot, Nick. That was a wonderful overview. Thank you, Dan. First question. This has been top of the mind burning for the audience all the way through. How do you recruit the workers that you have on the platform? What's your strategy? That seems to be finding the talent seems to be one of the main things that people are worried about. So what's your strategy and tactics that work for you in recruiting people, workers, the talent?
Yeah, no, great question. And just first too, thank you again for having us. We really appreciate it and appreciate the time today to the team. So on the recruitment strategy, I'd say a couple of things, right? The first thing would be just the trend of gig growing. So again, there are millions and millions of people who actually do want to work in gig. And when you think about the product that we offer, first and foremost, where so you can decide to work same day, right? Get paid literally moments after. And then this provisional opportunity to maybe get a full-time job and like a Tinder, almost like try before you kind of commit. It's amazing. So that is there. Beyond that, the actual tactics, believe it or not, a lot of the same tactics that you may use in traditional recruiting. Social media has been incredibly effective for us, but I'd say above all, and I showed this in the slide, of the 5 taskers I showed, 2 of them were actually siblings, and 50% of our taskers actually come to Hyer by word of mouth. So think about that. I mean, we love that from a tasker acquisition standpoint. That's a beautiful part of the model, and it also goes to show how much the taskers love and the value that they get from this app and gig in general, right? So
awesome. The second one, this has also been burning hot all the way through all the sessions, is no-shows and surprise cancellations. How do you deal with that, prevent it? What kind of measures you have and contingencies you have in place? This was asked also of the roundtable before, so it seems to be a hot topic for everybody.
Great question, everybody. Yeah, so I'll give some point of view, but Nick can jump in here as well. I would say at the end of the demo, Nick showed a feature where there was a little heart, right? It was a favorite option. And so over time, the more partners use us, you're going to wind up leveraging that heart. And essentially what that is, those are your favorite taskers. So A location may have 10, 15, 20, 30 favorite taskers, and these are reliable. So that really mitigates someone actually not showing because you've built rapport, they've worked for you before, you've gotten to know them, et cetera. There's a number of other kind of mechanisms as well, or like, ways to kind of mitigate that in the app. Nick, if you want to jump in with some of the detail there too.
Absolutely. There's a feature called Hyer Assist within the app itself. And as much as we are a functionality, so I'll talk through it, we're also a relationship-based company. So if anything was to happen, it's something we're working hand in hand with you on over the phone, via email, whatever you prefer. But within the Hyer Assist function, you have full control of marking a tasker as a no-show or a cancellation, and that will instantly breach their account and subject their account to either suspension or permanent disable. Most of the time, it's at 3 strikes, you're out. So it's something where somebody could be suspended for 14 days, then 30 days, and then they're permanently disabled if they were to cancel. But that being said, for newer customers, it's typically 1 strike and you're out. That way we help alleviate any volatility early on.
Yeah, and just to build too, the fill rates, like I referenced, are 90% plus. Again, these are people who are going out of their way to find, incremental income, supplemental income. So we see the fill rates pretty high. And then again, if it does happen, worst case scenario, someone's supposed to show up at 4 p.m. and there's a no-show. That's the beauty of a gig. You've got thousands of workers maybe ready and able to pick up that shift, right, Nick? So that can be automated in our app or manual. Yeah.
Outstanding. This one actually cropped up during the opening session keynote. Let's dig deeper into that. Payment disputes. I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Number of hours the worker spent. Classic scenario. The retail manager for the warehouse or the store back of the store says, "Oh, they left at 4 o'clock, came at 9, but left at 4." The worker says, "No, I was there till 5." I know that you have geofencing. What is your process of resolving payment dispute where the worker says 8 hours, the manager says 7 hours? How do you resolve that dispute with data and other ways? Payment disputes is what the question is about.
Yeah, so taskers have the ability to dispute if they felt like they were shorted any hours. At that point, they have to submit a claim to us. And if they don't answer questions in detail that we can provide back to the customer, we end up closing that out. So it's typically something that it's a case-by-case basis. And if there was something that could be validated by the business we're working with, that's something that we'll share and work hand in hand with them on. That being said, we do have geofencing. We have all of these status updates. So we have push notifications. So we can always track where those triggers were, where somebody marked in progress and lastly complete. But typically what we tell these customers is it always helps if you have somebody on site to have a sign-in, sign-out sheet, because you can't argue with that. So if somebody was to leave and they signed out, then that is when they were done with their shift.
Awesome. And that will be the last word. Dan and Nick, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
From all of us here at the GigWorks Summit. Do stay with us. The next session is with Van Tucker of Harbor Lockers. He's going to talk about 25,000 plus lockers and what they're doing there in terms of enabling that with gig workers. So do stay with us for that. Thanks a lot, Hyer team. It's wonderful to have you, and I wish you continued growth as you have been growing really, really well all through the years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Appreciate
so much.
Bye.